And hi again, everybody. Welcome back to Sports Talk, special edition of Sports Talk today. Doug Miles, of course, along with Don Henderson. Not at the ballpark today, but we were over the weekend. But we're going to talk a little basketball. We're going to talk about a great new book by our friend Pat Williams of the Orlando Magic. And Don, I'll let you do the introduction since you go back in time with Pat a little bit.
Yeah, Pat and I go back a long time, back to the 76ers in Philadelphia, and always a great pleasure to talk to Pat, and always a great pleasure to talk basketball. But we're not going to talk basketball tonight, even though he's the senior vice president of the NBA Orlando Magic. He has written a new book. I'll tell you, Pat, first of all, you write more books than anybody in America.
Well, thank you, Don. This latest one is called Character Carved in Stone, and I'm looking forward to chatting with you about it.
Well, I'll tell you, Pat, I've been to West Point a number of times, and never once did I ever, as you know, a lot of times when we go in to do ball games and so forth, we really don't take very much time to go around the campus or that type of thing. So I'd like to start off by explaining how you got a sort of a private tour and how you got to Trophy Point and what it's all about.
Well, Don, I was invited to go up to West Point a few years ago. The athletic director, Boo Corrigan, invited me to come speak to all the different teams, men and women, and the coaches, and so I did that. And then afterwards, one of the athletes took me on a tour around the campus, which is a very moving experience. We came across a little park called Trophy Point on the campus that looks out over the historic Hudson River. And I noticed in the park a bench. Now, I guess every park in America has a bench in it, but this was a stone bench, and I looked further, and there was another one. And then I looked all the way around the little park and counted there were 12 of these benches. And I thought, I wonder if there's more to those benches. And I went over and looked at one, and I noticed a word had been carved into the stone on that end of the bench. And I walked around the other end, and that same word was carved there. And I continued to check all the benches, and there was a different word carved into the stone of each bench. Words like courage and dedication and discipline, loyalty, responsibility, those kind of words. And then I thought, there's got to be a backstory here. Well, as it turns out, there was. The West Point class of 1934.
Well, I was born, my boy.
Good for you, buddy. On their 50th anniversary, 1984, they donated or gave these benches as a class gift, and they came up with these 12 words to carve in there to challenge the students, the cadets, to live and lead by those words. That's what we learned, and my immediate reaction was, gosh, this is a well-kept secret. You know, I'd never heard of that. I had no idea, and I don't think many other people did either. So we went to the publisher and said, here's the book idea. Let's do a chapter on each one of those words, and then figure out who the best product of West Point would exemplify that particular word. So that's how we put the book together. We had one other immediate thought, who's going to do the foreword? And then we thought, why not Mike Krzyzewski, the Duke coach, West Point grad? And he immediately agreed to do that, which really, really pleased us. And so that's the background. That's what happened. The book is out. It's been out just a few weeks, and we're greatly encouraged by the initial response.
That I'll tell you, I think it's one of the great, we just don't have much history lessons in high school or anywhere anymore. So this is, I think, a great education, and every young man should have a chance to read it. Before Doug jumps in, one other point. You talked about Coach K, and I thought he exemplified in his preview of the book. First of all, parents. He talked about his parents, how important they were to him in Chicago. Mm-hmm. And more importantly, he talked about the idea of family and the fact that, how much that mattered to him and how much it matters to everybody that's really close to the family. And thirdly, where the money was going to come from. And maybe you touch on that before we get to the actual 12 points.
Yeah, Coach K, Mike shared his story, very openly. about how he grew up on the south side of Chicago, and his parents, I think he said they didn't speak much English or much English. He was a good little basketball player, and then Bobby Knight came along and recruited him right in his home. Coach K has never forgotten or gotten over that. So he went to West Point and he played. He was a pretty good player. And the next thing you know, he's an assistant coach and ends up the head coach at Army when Bobby left. And now all of a sudden the Duke job is open, and the AD Tom Butters came and hired him. Nobody could pronounce his name. His record at Army was not super great, and his early years were a great struggle. There was pressure to remove him, but Butters stood firm, gave him an extension, and finally in 1981 he had his first great recruiting class. That was Johnny Dawkins and Jay Billis and some of those guys, and he's been rolling ever since.
Well, Bud, I think all these things are very important to, don't skip over when you start to read the book. The book is totally intriguing, but don't skip over the first part, because I think that means a lot to people that, have family and dedication and what it really meant to Coach K. And I think a lot of people will be surprised by Bobby Knight's entrance into the situation as well. But Doug, before we go any further, why don't you start with whatever segment you'd like to start with?
Yeah, I was going to say, Pat, great to talk with you again. I know it's been a while, but great to have a chance to do that. And
Thanks, Doug.
And reading through the book myself as well. First of all, thank you for the nice autographs, too. So it makes a nice memento for us. And I'll pass the book along to my mom, who, we had military people in our family, so I'm sure she's going to enjoy reading it. But I didn't realize until you kind of answered it before that these benches really aren't known to the public, and you really can't see them unless you have a special tour, right? You just can't walk on campus and see these. Is that correct?
Well, that's true, and they do offer tours. I happen to get a private one, but when you go there, you'll see buses pull up. Usually they come up from New York City or whatever, and there's a busload of people and their tour guides, to take them around the campus and show them the different monuments and the different statues. And over here is where Douglas MacArthur's mother lived during student MacArthur's days there. Oh, there's some fascinating little nooks and crannies up there, and you come away, really filled with a sense of history.
John?
Well, I don't want to take away too much. I want to go one at a time if we can, or at least a couple little notes.
Sure.
I think you're starting with Grant was very, very interesting. A young man that had every military salute he could have. The only thing is, he didn't know how to handle money.
Well, Grant grew up in the Midwest. He went to West Point. He was not a great student. He was a great horseman there. And he failed at just everything he did. And finally, when the Civil War broke out, Grant went back into the service. He soon worked his way up. They kept promoting him. And eventually, he became the general that prevailed over the Confederates, and became a very famous person. But in this book on compassion, people don't think of Grant that way. They think of him as Busher Grant, and who just ground the Confederacy down finally. But he had a great sense, great concern and feeling for his soldiers. He had a very tender marriage, a true love affair, and Grant was absolutely adamant about taking good care of the horses, which were a big part, of course, of the military then. And one day he saw a soldier just whipping and beating and punishing a horse on the side of the road, and Grant was infuriated. He went over and tore into that soldier and threatened him to an inch of his life, about how he had treated that horse. So I think there was definitely a compassionate side to Ulysses S. Grant.
I wanted to ask you too, Pat. Again, a great story, and we were in the 50th anniversary, believe it or not, of the moon landing, and you got a great story in there about Buzz Aldrin. I thought a lot of people may not be aware of his background at the point.
Well, Buzz Aldrin was a West Point product. He went into the space program later on, and he was chosen, in the 1969 trip to the moon, and fascinating. And the interesting thing is, Doug, he's 89 years old. He's still alive. He's gone through some legal machinations with his family, but the last I read, they'd gotten them straightened out.
Right.
Yeah, they did. Last week I saw the same thing.
Yeah, I was pleased with that.
Kid stepped back.
Yeah, that's right. That's what I read. I was pleased to see that. Over the years, he's had a battle with alcohol, but a great American patriot, and he'll always be in the history books. He and Neil Armstrong and the moon landing. Special event, obviously.
Well, Pat, I think you really just a couple of chapters down, you decided to go to the female side of West Point, which I think a lot of people don't take much time to consider. In 1976, West Point became co-educational, and one of the surprising things to me that the young lady that you picked out, talking about courage, was really, to me, that's a very, very unusual story.
Don, Maggie Dixon was not a West Point product, but she got into the coaching business at a very young age, was an assistant at DePaul, and wanted to be a head coach. The Army job was open. She applied, and they hired her. Took a program that was really floundering and straightened it out rather quickly. Got the whole campus excited about it. They got to the NIT. I mean, she had a terrific start and was beloved on that campus. But then, at age 27, her heart gave out, and she passed away. And the campus was just absolutely shell-shocked.
You pointed out in the article or in the piece that she had an unknown enlarged heart. All those years that she participated as an athlete herself, they never realized that.
Yeah, and Don, that was the same thing with Pete Maravich.
Right.
He died at age 40. Playing a pickup game one morning, and collapsed and fell to the floor, and he was gone. And they found out that he had a heart disorder that had never been flagged. That seems amazing. But anyway, Don, when you go to the campus, you can go into the West Point Cemetery, and there's a beautiful monument commemorating the life of Maggie Dixon. You'll see flowers there. You'll see miniature basketballs left. She made her mark there.
That's what surprised me most, the fact that after that short period of time, and as you point out, determination, that short period of time, and yet she's a part of the picture. I thought that was quite interesting.
Yeah, she made her mark in a hurry, Don, and when she passed away, that campus was in mourning for quite a while. She's never been forgotten. And we thought that it would be appropriate to bring that out and share some of her life, with our readers.
Terrific. Doug?
Talking with Pat Williams of the Orlando Magic. Full title of the book, we want to give it again, Character Carved in Stone, the 12 core virtues of West Point that built leaders and build leaders and produce success, and published by Revell Books. And you can get it, I guess, all the bookstores, I know, Pat, but you have a website, too, you want to direct people to?
Well, it is in bookstores, and Amazon.com, a wonderful way to order books. I've got an email address, Doug. I'm always happy to hear from your listeners, P. Williams at OrlandoMagic.com. P. Williams at OrlandoMagic.com. The Twitter page, Orlando Magic Pat, and always happy to hear from people.
Great. Don, you can ask a little basketball here, Pat.
I'll tell you, I don't want to book this thing, but I want to tell you, it's a terrific read. It really is. But I want to go to integrity. I thought that was another great story. Everybody knows Eisenhower. Everybody knows MacArthur. Everybody knows about the Philippines. And you incorporated quite a few things in this one segment that I thought were things that I never knew anything about.
Well, of course, MacArthur was the major domo in the Philippines, and Eisenhower worked under him, which was not easy. MacArthur was a man of great power, great fame. Humility was not a word you'd associate with MacArthur, and I think Eisenhower was frustrated. However, he knew where he stood, and he did his job. Always wondering if he'd ever have a chance to lead in combat. He missed World War I, and eventually he came back to the States. He was befriended by George Marshall. And that's how Eisenhower really got elevated to that position, preparing for D-Day. But the thing about Eisenhower in the Philippines that really hit me, he realized that the Philippine government was offering some pretty sizable sums of money to our leaders over there. It was not illegal, but they were doing it, and those leaders were accepting it. The same offer went to Eisenhower, but he turned it down.
$100,000.
Big money.
That's a lot of money in those days.
Big money. And he said, I'm being paid, to do my job, and he just refused to take the money.
But General MacArthur, he took $500,000.
Yes. MacArthur took a huge sum, and others took big sums, and it was not illegal. But Eisenhower, he said this later on. He said, integrity is the key part of being a leader. He said it doesn't matter whether you're a military general or whether you're coaching a football team or the head of a work crew. He said you can't lead unless you're a person of integrity. That's how he viewed it.
Doug?
I was going to say, Pat, before we talk a little basketball, these 12 core virtues, I know, the military academies do this. I would like to see it hopefully put into some of the high schools. I think it'd be a good idea.
Well, I agree with you there. I think one of the challenges that I lay out there to high schools and colleges is that you are preparing your students really for a life of leadership. And I would like to see that emphasized in all of our schools, high school and colleges, that we're not just teaching you history, we're not just teaching you these courses, but we want you to get ready to be our future leaders. That's how I feel, and I think it can be done if the professors and the teachers, get imbued with that idea, that philosophy that we're not just teaching courses here, but we're teaching leadership. Our sports coaches, our pastors, our youth workers. That's a good challenge, I think, because leadership counts, and everything rises and falls on leadership, and the future of our nation depends on getting this next generation of leaders ready to run things.
Well, Pat, I don't want to overemphasize all the chapters within your book, but one that really struck me was the fact that West Point was really established from the line with somebody that didn't go to West Point, went to Dartmouth.
Well, that was fair, and listen, he still felt up there, even though this was way back in the 1800s. The hotel there is named after him. And you sense Mr. Thayer all over that campus. He was really the one who got West Point established. And to become the kind of institution it is today. And they have not forgotten him. He's very much a presence there. You feel him when you're there.
And also the professors at West Point said that he only went 1 year. It was after he had graduated from Dartmouth, and they said He didn't need to go more than 1 year because he knew more than the professors that were there.
You'll Don. People will enjoy reading about him, even though they may not be familiar with him.
Right.
But once you get into that chapter on him, you come away quite moved by that guy. He was a vital part of the whole West Point story.
Anything that any particular thing that we didn't maybe touch on that you'd like to emphasize before we maybe ask you a basketball question?
Don, let's do one more. We do a chapter on General Matthew Ridgway.
Right. His hand grenades he wasn't a Patton. He was another general.
He was quite a guy. He his freshman year, plebe year, he knew all 700 people on the campus. He knew all of their names. And on the morning of D-Day, the Normandy invasion, June the 6th, our parachuters, were heading into France, coming from airplanes, and where was General Ridgway? He was right with them. Parachuting into France, facing the enemy, he was right with them. He was not out on a ship in the English Channel, or he was not back in London.
Right.
He was right there. And when I became familiar with that, I said, boy, I like this guy. And then, of course, in 1951, when Harry Truman got rid of MacArthur in Korea, he replaced him with General Ridgway, who was very effective. He deserves, our admiration. That's how I feel.
Absolutely, and you also made a one-line comparison. Patton went around with a pearl-handle rifle, and pearl-handle revolvers, I should say, and Ridgway was just the opposite. He had grenades on one side, and so he said, I may have to blast my way out every once in a while.
Yeah, he was just a regular guy. He had no airs about him. We know about Patton and all of his successes, but also his failures, his faults.
Right.
But as you study Ridgway, I didn't see a whole lot of faults with that man.
Well, Doug, we'll switch over maybe to basketball for a second before we let Pat go. First of all, just we'll reemphasize again, character carved in stone, story of West Point, and the 12 benches that he points out and what each one of the benches mean and what those individuals meant not only to the country but to West Point as well. And Pat, once again, I salute you for this book. I think it's great. I think your idea about the schools is magnificent. I think it's something that should be in every school library in the country.
Well, Don, thank you. I'm so grateful that book has hit home with you. And thank you for helping me to spread the word. We're trying to get this book into as many hands as we can.
Well, we'll try to help the best we can. Doug?
I was going to say, Pat, we can't let you go asking you a little bit about the Magic. Give us the latest on that, and how do you look at the future with the team?
Well, Doug, we're having a pretty good year. We're in the playoff hunt. Down into the last couple of weeks of the season, and it's been a while since that happened. But our team is solid. We've got a very solid starting five. Our bench has been pretty good. It's going to be very, very interesting. We're in a dogfight. We're one game behind Miami. They're in Oklahoma City tonight. So every game down the stretch here, I think we have, 11 left. They're all important. Our fans have caught it. Our building is full every night. There's a lot of energy and enthusiasm, about our team and how this season is ending up. So we're hopeful to get into that playoff slot. The Nets have had a good year, but they're struggling, so they're beginning to fall back into this chase. Charlotte is still alive. Miami, of course, has a one-game lead, and we're right behind them. So there's going to be a lot of interest. Who's going to get in, and then if you get in, you're only faced with one problem. You would open with Milwaukee. And right now, they're the best team in basketball, in my opinion. So stay tuned. There are going to be a lot of twists and turns here in the next couple of weeks.
Well, Pat, you've dealt with a number of superstars over the year. We've talked many times about your story about bringing Julius Erving into the Philadelphia 76er franchise and how you went about it, talking with the owner. You also talked many times about what happened with the Magic when you had an outstanding center that didn't want to play there any longer. He wanted to go somewhere else. Well, he's gone 2 or 3 places since then, and hasn't really come up with a winning combination. And now LeBron James leaves Cleveland and goes to Los Angeles, and Los Angeles is really struggling. Sometimes maybe it's better to lose that guy than to keep him.
Well, Don, I think the lesson is this. The grass is not always greener on the other side.
I agree. Of course, I know you're a baseball guy, and you know, Wake Forest right on through when you first started out, but you know, $330 million is a lot of money to me. I know it's only pickle change for you, but for us it's still a lot of money. But how about that?
Well, that was quite a signing. The Phillies ownership is really muscled up here, determined, to have a great year and try and get into the postseason. The Harper signing has certainly stirred things in Philly, Don. I understand they are selling tickets left and right. They're going to have tremendous crowds.
He sold 100,000 tickets the first Sunday after he signed, and 50,000 the next day. So I know that he sold 150,000. I don't know what they've done since then.
Well, it continues. I don't know the exact number, but it hasn't slowed down. And so you put a pen and pencil and do the math on that, and they're gonna get there. It's gonna be a profitable signing.
Well, you pretty much did that with Julius Erving when he came over.
Yes.
To the Philadelphia 76ers. McGinnis and Erving were really 2 big players that you made the turning point on, and that really reestablished the 76ers after Wilt Chamberlain.
Yeah, we paid an astounding sum to buy Julius, $3 million, which in 1976 was just staggering. Today it would be laughed at, and another 3 to sign Julius. But that was a profitable signing for us in the course of a couple of years. We more than got our money back on that deal because Julius, not every night, but we began to really put a lot of people in the spectrum, and it worked out beautifully.
You never sat in.
That was buy the seat you never sit in and stand up for the Sixers. I think that was a pretty catchy little phrase, little campaign. Buy the seat you'll never sit in and stand up for the Sixers. Yeah,
it was a great time, and I'll tell you, the league was so much fun at that time, and we all had a great time with it. And summation, once again, Pat, I salute you on your book. Doug, if you have a final question, let's shoot it to him, and we'll close this baby out.
I was just going to say, I'll let Don close it out. But, Pat, again, pleasure talking with you. I enjoyed the book, and I know you're doing better health-wise, so God bless you for that, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Well, thank you. I get over to Sarasota in May every year for the Dick Vitale fundraising dinner at the Ritz, which is always a great one. And my son Bobby he and his wife live in Sarasota. They've got 6-year-old twin boys who are little leaguers, and Bobby's a pro scout for the Angels. Don, he scouts.
I was going to say when last I talked to you way back now when we were at the ballpark, one of your sons was playing. I thought he was with Cincinnati.
Well, Bobby was a coach with the Reds for 5 years, and
I thought so.
And then he spent 7 years in the national system. He was a minor league manager for 4 years and the farm director for 3. And this is his 8th year now as a pro scout for the Angels. And he loves Sarasota, and we love getting over there. So it's always a real treat to talk to you guys.
Well, I'll tell you, you got any number of children that can be anywhere right now. All over the world.
Yeah, they're scattered pretty good, Don. And now we've got 19 and a half grandchildren. So that's the next phase of our lives.
Well, once again, congratulations on the book. I could not have told you that I enjoyed it more. I hope we get to see you when you come over to Sarasota. And thank you, as always, for the time you spend with us.
Guys, thanks a million. I'm so glad we could visit, and we'll talk soon.
Take care.
Thank you, Pat.
Bye-bye.
Pat Williams joining us again. The title, Character Carved in Stone, and published by Revell Books. You can get it on Amazon, and we'll put a link up on our website as well. But Don, before we close it out, I tell you, I know you enjoyed the book just from hearing you talk now. I read through it. I really enjoyed it. And it's one of those kind of books you want to keep in your family, I think, too.
Yeah, I do. I think it's something, and I think you brought up a great point when you talked about the schools. I mean, this should be in the school library, because anybody that wants to know a little bit of the history of not only West Point, but the history of the Army as we knew it from the early days right straight through to the present, it's a real history lesson.
Yeah. Well, that'll wrap up the special edition of our Sports Talk tonight. Back to the ballpark this week, Don, and been good to talk with Pat. We haven't talked to him in about 3 or 4 years at least.
Right. Well, tomorrow night the Red Sox are in, and we'll be back there and take a look at what they have to do. An early game for those folks that are going to be listening to us a little bit later on. Why they start here at 6:10 during the exhibition season, so we'll have a chance to see a little Red Sox baseball, and we'll go from there, Doug.
Great. Thanks for listening, everybody.
I'm Stan Brock. 30 years ago, I formed Remote Area Medical to help people overseas. But then we found generations of families in America isolated by poverty from the health care they need. Together, we can take dental, vision, and medical help to 1 million adults and their kids, right here at home in the United States of America.